everyone. Welcome to the Grind City Media Play-In Preview. Yes, the Grizzlies are in the play-in this week as the NBA, I guess, pre-playoff tournament gets underway. Yeah, we're going to discuss it here today here on Grind City Media. Great to be with you, and it's great to have a couple of panelists with me as well today, including Jessica Benson, the host of Rise and Grind each and every morning, and also on the radio doing the pre- and post-game for the Grizzlies radio broadcast. Jessica, thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And it's the GCM OG, Michael Wallace, who does too many things on Grind City Media to even mention what he does. How are you, Michael?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to it.
And the television analyst for your Memphis Grizzlies, former Memphis Grizzly himself, Brevin Knight is with us, who's applauding everyone, so we applaud Brevin as well. Hello, Brevin. Well, here we are, y'all. 38 and 34 season, 72 games, finished 9th in the West, 18 and 18 at home, 20 and 16 on the road. Jessica, I'll start with you. Overachieve, underachieve, achieve. What'd you think of the season?
I think this team exceeded expectations so much that the expectation goal line moved throughout the season, which is such a testament to what one of the youngest teams in the NBA was able to accomplish. And when you think back on the COVID issues, the injury issues, the pauses in the season, a young season, it's tremendous that we still have another week of basketball ahead of us with this Grizzlies team. And so while I know it can feel a bit like a letdown to be the 9 seed, the fact that they are the 9 seed is something to celebrate.
All right, Brevin, your thoughts?
I echo exactly what Jessica said. It just started off as another rebuild year, but this is the second year of a rebuild year that the Grizzlies are fighting for a playoff position. So the expectations, they have not let them continue to get out of whack, but they have put them in positions where they can have early success with this new Grizzlies team. And so I think that they are still right on track for where they expected themselves to be. Maybe a little bit accelerated because to be in the Western Conference fighting for this playoff position is something that you don't say that with a new team in 2 years. And so I think they're very excited about the opportunity. But the good thing is I don't feel as though they feel like they've accomplished anything. So there's more work to be done, and I think they relish this opportunity.
Michael, your season overview?
I'm going to go somewhere between achieve and overachieve, right? Because I do agree with Jessica and BK that I think that line moved midway through the season. Once we figured out that Jaren was going to be a little bit longer coming back, and once we figured out the COVID pause that set us aside for almost 2 weeks, to be where we are, 4 games over 500 at this point, that's no one could have predicted that. No one could have expected that, considering what you were without on a night-to-night basis. I mean, Taylor Jenkins was shuffling lineups, like he shuffles cards. I mean, in terms of who he had available in the rotations and the second units and all of those kind of things. And at the end of the day, to get to this point, all things considered, this is about where the Grizzlies were expecting to be, but how they got here, I think they overachieved to get back to the market correction of being able to achieve what they wanted to do.
Well, the Grizzlies will play in the play-in Wednesday night, 6:30 against the San Antonio Spurs. Let's take a look at the bracket. This is new to us, a bracket for the NBA play-in, which is kind of exciting. There you see it. Grizzlies will take on San Antonio. The winner then will take on the loser of the Lakers and Golden State. Brevin, I'll start with you. The play-in worked, right? This was exciting. This whole bracket thing is fun.
Listen, it was more compelling basketball games down the stretch of an NBA season than I could ever remember. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that 10 to 12 teams in each conference realistically had an opportunity to be a playoff team. And because of that, you saw teams having to extend themselves, maybe play guys a little bit more. Can't take off games because if you feel as though you're one of the better teams, then you want to make sure you're in the 1 through 6. So you don't have the extra games to play in terms of playing situations. So I thought it kept teams engaged, more teams than we've ever had engaged in late NBA basketball, but I think it also has just drummed up a lot of excitement for this basketball. It's almost like a mini NCAA in terms of you have an opportunity to win or go home right away in one game situation. So I think it's worked out phenomenally, and you can see between each conference, They had the exciting finishes down the run across, and not just for 7 to 10. There was still movement from 1 to 10 in both conferences coming down at stretch. So I think it's done a fantastic job with the competitive spirit of the league.
Michael, I looked at it like Major League Baseball. Being a big baseball fan, when they came up with the wild card idea, I thought it was a bad idea. You play 162. Why are you adding more teams? But all it's done is add drama. It's made baseball compelling in the final week of the season. I think it's been a huge success. We've just added another wild card team in football. Nobody says a thing because we know how compelling that is. I think that's the way you have to look at it in the NBA. It's just a wild card. You're adding 2 wild card teams, and I think it's compelling, it's money-making, and more cities are interested. I think it's a win.
I think it's a win, too. And the 2 things that came to mind as BK was talking there was that this compelling finish to the season would have been here regardless of the play-in or not because of the way everything mattered in the last day of the regular season. So technically, the Grizzlies versus the Warriors would have been an elimination game for the 8th seed. Basically, if they just played that without the play-in, right? And then you look at what the Wizards were able to do to come from where they came from way back and then to finish with that in that 7-8, 9-10 range. That was another situation there. What's funny to me, though, Jess, is that 2 years in a row, the NBA kind of had a wink, wink, nod, nod. Let's expand this thing to try to get Zion and the Pelicans in. And 2 years in a row, the Pelicans are sitting at home, right? Not even part of this party. So that's the kind of funny thing about it. But yes, when you look at what teams are going to be playing these first couple of days, you got major champions, major markets. It's going to be compelling, no question about that.
Yeah, and that even takes us back to just celebrating where the Grizzlies are and still being able to play. Zion Williamson is not playing, much to the chagrin, I'm sure, of some. But I look back now and with LeBron James infamously saying whoever created the play-in should be fired. No, they should get a raise. They should get a pizza party. We all want a pizza party, so give them a pizza party at this point because it's been so fun. I personally have never watched a Hornets-Wizards game to end the season with a lot of intrigue and excitement there. But guess what? That's what I was doing before the Grizzlies tipped off on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think it's been great. And now the Grizzlies get to this situation. They'll take on the San Antonio Spurs Wednesday night, 6:30 in the first of the play-in. And they got to win that game. And then they got to go and beat the loser of Golden State and the Lakers to advance to the field of 8 in the Western Conference. And Brevin, I think going into the Golden State game, there were so many different matchups that were of an intrigue in that game, whether it was Dillon Brooks and Steph Curry, whether it was John Morant just to see what he could do, whether it was JV being the big against Golden State. I think in this game, so much in my mind at least goes back to last year's playing against Portland. I can't wait to see what John Morant does. And to me, it's all about John Morant.
Yeah, he is the leader of this basketball team on the floor in terms of they play off of his energy. He's a guy that can create for himself, but this team also, and with his play, whether it is creating a highlight play or just a solid pocket pass or a flare to a finish above the rim, it is going to be he is going to have to get off to a fantastic start. And that start has to be engagement on both ends of the floor. And I say even when you go to huddles, it's going to have to be about business. You want to enjoy themselves, have fun, but this is money time. And you would expect for the San Antonio Spurs to come out with that winner's mentality. They have championship pedigree sitting on their bench. So you would have to expect a high level of engagement from them. And I would expect the same thing from Jai. He understands that he could have done more in the game against Golden State. And the one thing that you don't like to do as a star player is have back-to-back games where you feel as though I didn't do enough to affect the outcome of the basketball game.
Jessica, are you at a point where big moments you expect Big Ja?
Yeah, we need Big Ja. And John Morant is the first person who will acknowledge that this team needs him to be better than he was on Sunday. I think that's one of the more impressive parts of John Morant's growth this season is taking responsibility on, growing as a leader. Now, you would also like to see, I think back to that first game against the Spurs when John Morant scored 44 points and he said, I'd rather have 10 points in a win than 44 points in a loss. I'm cool with him having 44 points in a win later this week. That would be awesome. I'd also would love to see him come out there and hit like like 4 threes.
Yeah.
Because everyone is trashing his jump shot after that last game. And understandably so. That's okay. That's fair. He had a rough go of it the last couple of games. And when the Warriors are sagging off you to the point where Doris Burke, for those who weren't blessed to be able to watch Bally Sports Southeast,
no kidding.
but for Doris Burke to say, it's borderline disrespectful what the Warriors were doing to Ja Morant, I hope he comes out and proves everyone wrong in the next one.
Michael, what do you expect from Ja?
I mean, I expect Ja to pick up. I mean, the film is there. As Jessica said, I mean, all he has to do is look back to that season opener, the first game of the season against the Spurs, where he just went off and ripped off 44 points, a career high at that time. He knew how he had to play, and particularly he got hot towards the second half of that game. The second half, third quarter, fourth quarter is when he really picked up. Ja has to start games with that kind of mindset because, again, you're in a win or go home situation. This is not let's fill out the game and let it come to us. Because these San Antonio Spurs teams, they're a very, very streaky team. You have to be the more consistent bunch when it comes to this situation. And it's not going to be easy because if DeJounte Murray is healthy, that's a long-arm wing defender that they can throw on Ja. They can throw a number of different guys at him to try to confuse him and get him mixed up. But at the end of the day, Ja Morant has to say, you know what, this is my team, this is my town, this is my time. And I want him to play the same way that he did the first game against the Spurs, and also that game a couple seasons ago now when he went to Charlotte. And he was like, okay, I'm going to take this one by the horns. This has to be Ja's moment. And I think he can step up and take care of it.
Well, another guy for the Grizzlies who's just been there all year and been consistent all year and consistently big, literally all year for the Memphis Grizzlies has been Jonas Valanciunas, and we talk about it on a nightly basis that the Grizzlies have an advantage when Jonas Valanciunas is on the floor on most nights. And if you don't have an advantage, you're at least an equalizer. The guy had a double-double against Golden State on Sunday. Had just played one game against San Antonio this year, had a double-double, 15 and 13. And Michael, he's just a guy that now you rely on, you expect, and he's also a guy that can get you out of a slump or get you out of a scoring drought when you need to.
Absolutely. And listen, this is a guy that Jessica knows exactly where I'm going with this. He rolls out of bed and gets you a double-double. Simple as that. Like, he wakes up, brushes his teeth, and he already has 10 and 7, right? It's just a matter of how many he's going to get the rest of the first quarter. But it's one of those situations where his physicality is what this team needs. Where Dillon brings the mental toughness, and I'm a rub you the wrong way, Jonas brings the physicality that, okay, we are a tough basketball team, and we're going to be that way on both ends of the floor. You're going to feel me on offense. You're going to feel me on defense, and we're going to set the tone because we're one of the best teams in the league in paint points and second chance points, and those are two areas where Jonas dominates.
Jessica, was he the MVP of the team this year?
I actually would say yes. I was talking with someone earlier this week going into the game against the Warriors and saying, who's the most important member of this Grizzlies team right now? And in that case, it was Jonas Valanciunas and what he could do on the board, specifically what he should have been able to do even more effectively on the offensive rebounds and the second chance opportunities. I will say, if Mike Wallace had trademarked roll out of bed, get a double-double at the beginning of the season,
right,
he'd be a very rich man at this point in the year. But I'll take it a step further and just say Jonas is always good for boards, buckets, and bruising. And he has that vintage center oomph that gives this team something that is unique in a way. He's just enough of a threat from three that he makes defenders second guess lagging off of him. Defensively, there's some room for improvement there, but he has been so consistent, and without Jonas Valanciunas, the Grizzlies would be in a very different place at this point in the season.
Hold up, Jess, give me the 3 Bs again.
Buckets, boards, and bruising.
and
a beard.
And a beard. I was about to say, I
he's
can
always
speak for
consistent
BK.
with the beard.
BK, we can go beards too, right? We like beards are important.
Why not round it out with the fourth one?
I'm not going to grow a playoff beard, but you guys can start the process.
Right. We'll do it for you.
Thank you.
Yes. Brevin, how important in this matchup with San Antonio's JV?
He'll be huge, and he'll be huge in a different way because when you used to play San Antonio, it may be Aldridge. Now you have to worry about defending away from the basket with Aldridge because he's a shooter. With Jakob Poeltl, everything he does is coming to the basket. So the way that the Grizzlies like to play him in pick-and-roll situations, now at least he is ready for the roller coming to the basket or at least being in the middle to force them to shoot pull-up jump shots. The other thing is, on the other end, he is always a mismatch for this Grizzlies basketball team. And in an era where basketball has become a lot more perimeter-oriented, even big guys being more so playing on the outside, guys are not accustomed to the positioning of how to slow him down when he's on the offensive end. So he buries guys underneath the basket. you turn and to go towards the basket to rebound, he just pushes you further under. So any rebound that bounces on the rim and anywhere out, he's always has an opportunity to touch. He's one of the best positioned offensive players in the association. And so those little nuances allow him to affect games better than any big or just as good as any big has in the game. But guys, in terms of in the paint, he's been the best at it all year.
All right, one more question for you, BK, before we let you go. And I was going to ask Jessica and Michael and myself this question, but I know the answer. And so let's not waste your time. The question of how much does it mean for the growth of this franchise to play in these games? We all have the same answer. It means a lot. Of course it does. But, Brevin, you've been in this situation. You've been a player in the NBA. You've gone through that first playoff experience. What specifically for these players on this team do these games mean for the growth of their careers?
Well, first and foremost, it's the reality of how hard you have to play and how important every possession is. You go through regular season games, and there are possessions that you can go through many possessions where you make a lot of mistakes. At the end, it can still work out because it's just that's the level of play. When you get to the playoffs, there is a different level of concentration, execution that you have to put forth, and the effort that you have to play with on every possession becomes that much more heightened. And so being in the situation, having the feelings of, I don't know if they'll put this on the floor, but going out on the floor and seeing the NBA playoffs logo on the floor, there's a different vibe that is around basketball when it's playoff time. A lot of times there is a national audience for every game, and that's not something that every team is accustomed to on a nightly basis. So being able to be in the situation, to just feel it, there is no way that someone can continue to tell you about it and explain it to you. You have to be in the arena, feel what that energy is like, feel what it is to play against players that have been in that situation. And for the Grizzlies, it was a tough loss, but they got an opportunity to see it at the highest level with Steph Curry and Draymond Green, with the way that they approached that basketball game, and the entire staff for Golden State and how they executed and what they wanted to get done. They got a really good taste of it. And so the only way that you can get better and ready for playoff series.
BK, thank you very much, sir. We look forward to seeing you back on Bally Sports when the first round of the playoffs get underway, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, we got to do that. I'm ready for that pregame show. I'm getting ready for it.
That's good. That's good. Get your prep in. Figure out your outfit because I'll be bringing it strong. Thanks, thanks, Brevin. Appreciate it, man.
All right, y'all be good. All right.
All right. This is the Grind City Media Play-In Preview. We'll take a break. Voice of the Grizzlies, Pete Pranica, joins us when we come back here on Grind City Media.
We got to talk to you every Wednesday. Do you know we gear up for this? It's like D'Angelo's coming on the show today. It's a fun one.
They take any shots in the hallway.
We breathe. We do breathing treatments. We meditate. We have some Zen holistic, air diffuser going.
A sage.
Yes, we sage the place. We get ready for you.
Oh, so y'all Kyrie Irving me before I come on.
Rise and Grind with Jessica and Megan. Live daily at 8 a.m. on grindcitymedia.com.
So you know how part of the reason they did the possession arrow is because referees can't throw a ball 6 feet in the air straight up. Now we have drone technology. So we put the ball on a drone. Fly it over the thing. Have the drone sponsored. Have it you put a camera up there. Put a sponsor on it. Hey guys, it's time for the Mountain Dew drone jump ball. Thing flies out there. Perfect every time.
Get your sports betting picks and trends with Lang Whitaker and Rob Fischer, the Odds Couple.
Grizz fans, the official Grizzlies mobile app is your key to the game. It's an all-in-one experience. Keep track of the team with news, social media, and team information. Plus, you can log into Grind City Media for articles, videos, podcasts, and streaming content like The Chris Vernon Show and Rise and Grind. You can see what's going on at FedEx Forum and use the app as your ticket and mobile wallet for contact-free payment in the arena. The official Grizzlies mobile app, your key to the game.
He had a block I've never seen in my life before. He was coming past half court, and he turned it over. Ja chased him down like LeBron. Blocked a shot off the glass, fell down. So this kid, 6'6", he's a big kid, gets the ball, and goes up to dunk it, right? Ja gets up off the floor
and blocked a dunk.
Off vert and blocked another one.
The Chris Vernon Show, live weekdays at noon on grindcitymedia.com, the Grizzlies mobile app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Once a week, get your basketball fix with Talkin' Grizz, featuring me, Kelsey Wright Johnson, and media from around the NBA as we discuss draft topics, prospects, and more. Connect with Grind City Media on all their social channels, subscribe to Grind City Media YouTube, and follow Grind City Media on Twitter and Instagram to stay up to date with all things Grizzlies.
Welcome, everyone, back to the Grind City Media play-in preview as the Grizzlies get set to take on the San Antonio Spurs Wednesday night at 6:30. By the way, Grizzlies announced the tickets for the play-in tournament against San Antonio will be available for purchase on Tuesday, May 18th, starting at 2 p.m., including a limited number of six-person suite nights as well. An exclusive presale available at 9 a.m. for MVP season ticket members as well. Limit of 4 tickets per purchase. Details regarding increased capacity will be shared on Monday afternoon as well. So look around for that.
And I'm hearing that there may be some, a little bit of something special in store for fans that come to that game. So, I'm not going to drop any more hints than that. But
we were hoping they'd be Rally Stanley's, but after Stanley's performance on Sunday, that is now over.
Stanley's out.
He's out.
Stanley's benched.
Yeah, he's benched. Michael Wallace, Jessica Benson with me. Pete Pranica now joins us as well, your television voice of the Memphis Grizzlies on Bally Sports. Hello, Pete.
Hey, everybody. How are you all doing the day after what could have been? And that's why I'm a little frustrated, because you come from 17 down and you grab a lead, and then that 6 foul on Dillon Brooks. Ouch.
Yeah, but Pete, I think after the game yesterday, the good news about it yesterday was I didn't feel bad because I didn't think it was lack of effort. I didn't think it was lack of, problems with the rotation. I thought it was yesterday one team was better than the other, and the other fought their way back into the game somehow and just came up short against a great player and a team that's been there before. And so let's move on to Wednesday.
Yeah, I go back, and this pegs me as a really, really old guy. I go back to when, the Pistons couldn't get by Boston, and then finally they got by Boston. And then Chicago came along, and they couldn't get by Detroit. And then ultimately they got by the Pistons and then started winning championships. And I think at some point you spend some time coming up short in big games so you learn how to win big games. And I think that's where this team is at. We talked about it yesterday. This is one of the youngest teams in the NBA. And of the top 5 or 6 youngest teams in the NBA, this is the only one that is dealing with the play-in or the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, of course, let's take a look again of the bracket. Oh, boy, brackets. I just love talking brackets in May.
You want May Madness. We're trying to make it happen.
We're going to have a pool set up by the end of the day.
We're talking about brackets.
Take a look at
Not a game. Not a game.
Not a game.
Brackets.
A bracket. We got Memphis, San Antonio. The winner then would take on the loser of the Lakers, Golden State. Pete, who would you rather see? Go to Staples Center, take off the Lakers off a loss, or go back to San Francisco and take on Golden State after a loss?
If LeBron James has a gimpy ankle and Anthony Davis isn't fully healthy, I'd match up with the Lakers, because we know what Steph Curry can do.
Yeah.
And it's funny because watching that game and calling that game, for much of the game, I thought, the Grizzlies aren't defending Steph Curry too badly. And then he still gets what he gets because he's Steph Curry. I think I probably would, seems odd to say, but I'd roll the dice with the Lakers over Golden State, I think.
Michael, you get to pick.
I'm going the exact opposite way. I respect Petey for all the reasons in the world, obviously. But again, look, these are young, like you just said, the Grizzlies are one of the youngest teams in the league, right? One of the youngest teams in the league. I think if they're going to get starstruck at this point, it's going to be walking into Staples. It's going to be seeing LeBron, who everyone wants to be like and take orders from. It's going to be a matchup nightmare in Anthony Davis, who's going to get to the free throw line. And they know how to break you down, slow the game down completely, and just annihilate you physically in that situation. I think that's a much tougher matchup, especially if there's going to be lenient foul calls going the other way. You don't want to go up against the Lakers plus, whatever else they bring in terms of making sure that they get into that round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I would say Golden State, you already took their best punch. Steph Curry had to go supernova to get them past you. I mean, he shot career highs in three-point attempts and field goal attempts, and you were still right there. And you didn't get much from Jonas, which is, to go back to y'all original point, I thought I wanted to see more of Jonas down the stretch. Jaren didn't really have it. And then obviously when Dillon fouled out, that changed the complexion of the last 5 minutes. But you already saw them, and I think you have a little bit more of an edge now that you took their best punch. I'd rather match up with Golden State.
Jessica, you beat San Antonio. Who you want to see?
I, Jessica Benson, commissioner of the NBA, institute a new play-in tournament rule. We're going to shake it up and have Western Conference, Eastern Conference matchups, and we're just going to change it around because I really want neither, if I'm being completely honest.
So I want to see the Indiana Pacers then.
I don't want to see them either.
I want to see the Celtics.
I was wondering how we could get Minnesota in there, possibly.
Go full nuclear. But no, I mean, you both bring up great points, and it's two teams that you have now seen, and you understand what Chef Steph can do, and he can cook you real fast because, like you said, I would have loved to bottle up the first 6 minutes of that game, and you're like, oh, Steph Curry. Steph Curry who? Steph Curry will let you know that he is very much still Steph Curry at this point in his lovely career. But you think back to LeBron James was here back at FedEx Forum, eager to teach those young, fast-talking Grizzlies a lesson, and LeBron James doesn't forget either. So you have two teams who are very, very good basketball teams. That said, let's see. I'll take the Warriors just because of recency bias, and sometimes it's hard to beat a team twice so close together.
I think that's a good answer. The Grizzlies going forward, one guy that's he's been huge for the Grizzlies has been Dillon Brooks. And you look at the last couple of months, and I think there's no question about, is Dillon Brooks playing disciplined? Is Dillon Brooks taking bad shots? Is Dillon Brooks playing a little too aggressive defensively? Michael, Dillon Brooks he's been the trying to think of the right word. He's been the engine of the train here recently. The way that he plays, his intensity, and his production.
Well, let me help you there. Yes, 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 and yes. All those questions you asked at the beginning, they're all yes. But is he ready for the moment? Yes. Is he unafraid of the situation when it comes to what is needed from him in a big-time situation on offense or defense? Yes. Is he willing to take the biggest shot at the most crucial point of a game? Yes. Is he going to back down from any challenge that you stick on him defensively to take care of? No. This is all what Dillon Brooks brings. Give me all of that. Like, I'm willing to take the bad and the thin line Dillon if I'm going to get the uber aggressive, let's psych these guys out Dillon too. This team needs Dillon Brooks because, listen, like they get in line behind him when it comes to their intestinal fortitude and what they bring to the table. He single-handedly, he got underneath half the Warriors' skin, half of the team's skin. And he does that. I just wish that there's a couple of fouls in there that didn't go his way. I wish they would have gone the other way. But I take Dillon all day, any day, on any team at any given moment.
Well, Jessica, I asked Dillon Brooks a couple of weeks ago, he talks so often about wanting to play in the playoffs because that's his type of basketball. That's his mindset. And I asked if his mindset was already there. He said yes. I believe him. I think his mindset's been there here for a while.
Yeah, I think without Dillon Brooks, we potentially are talking about a blowout loss to the Warriors over the weekend, and there's a very different vibe going into this play-in tournament. So for Dillon Brooks alone to have led that charge, to lead the Grizzlies to having a 2-point lead there in the fourth quarter speaks so much to what Dillon Brooks is, and he's an energy guy. And he also just lives rent-free in everyone's head with his little flashy sunglasses and his Louis Vuitton bag, and they just look back, and it's Dillon Brooks ready to torment every single star in this league. Luka, Dame, Bradley Beal. Now you have Steph Curry in that mix. Sure, Steph Curry goes off for 46 points, so when you look statistically wise, it's hard to just know. But if you watch the game, you know that Dillon Brooks made his life very difficult, and that's why the entire Warriors bench celebrated when Dillon Brooks got his sixth foul.
Pete, who's Dillon Brooks' big matchup against the Spurs?
Boy, that's a good question. My guess is it'd probably be DeMar DeRozan. That's a challenge that you really want to take up. I'm looking at their box score from yesterday: DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Pirtle, Keldon Johnson, DeMar DeRozan. But I think DeMar DeRozan is the guy that you really, really have to deal with because DeMar DeRozan has all the playoff experience. He knows what it's all about. And he's a guy who can score in a variety of ways, but you've got to make it hard on him. And I think Dillon has the opportunity to do that. I think discipline has been a huge thing for Dillon Brooks this year. He's been much better. And sometimes people who are watching the telecast wonder why Brevin and I get upset when he takes an early foul where he's just grabbing after somebody. That's because you may need that foul later in the game. and hopefully he can stay disciplined and do a good job against DeMar DeRozan, because I think that's probably going to be his primary matchup, particularly with Derek White not available to San Antonio.
Yeah, one of the big things for the Grizzlies here in the last couple of weeks has been integrating Jaren Jackson Jr. back into the lineup and now back into the starting lineup. And I don't think anybody would say that Jaren has played his best basketball, but it's been pretty good, especially I think on the defensive end. The block shots, the rebounds have been better from Jaren. Jessica, when you look at Jaren and how they've worked him back in, what do you want to see more of, I guess, in this series or in this game against San Antonio?
Yeah, we've seen flashes, right? And that's to be expected from being overly cautious, appropriately cautious with his return, to then getting him back in the starting lineup. We've seen so many opportunities of him being that switchable big with, you mentioned the blocks are huge. When I think back to the game against the Warriors, the one highlight that stands out for me is Jaren Jackson Jr. swiping Steph Curry one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that athleticism and that versatility, and so much potential is there. We haven't seen it all. Would love to see his three-point shot continue to come back into the mix a little bit more. And I think we're just seeing the growth of Jaren Jackson Jr. through 11 games. That's to be expected.
Michael, what are we missing?
About 40% of Jaren Jackson's ability. I
Yep.
think he's operating at 60% right now because, and I think physically he's fine. I just think in terms of rhythm and where he needs to be, he still looks like, somebody said it before. What do they call a baby deer who's just trying to figure out how long his legs are
Right.
and stretching out?
It's Bambi.
A fawn.
Bambi?
A fawn.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Jaren reminds me of when he's running up and down the court, because it seems like the court is not big enough for him to truly stretch out. And he has his awkward moments defensively. He's a much better off-ball, weak-side help defender than he is on-ball in terms of that. And his shot just has evaded him. But first game, he scores 20-plus, right? Or first two games, one of the games he had 4 blocks. The other game he had 20-plus points. So we see what the upside is. I think in this game against San Antonio, he's going to have to really find his confidence early on. I think you got to get him inside the paint first and then operate from inside and then outside. So that's going to be a challenge for Taylor Jenkins to figure out which way he can get Jaren going to get his confidence, because I think that's going to be key in this game.
To quote Taylor Jenkins, Pete, is he trending in the right direction?
Yeah, I think he's trending in the right direction, and I agree 110% with Michael. I think Jaren needs to start working inside and then move outside. If he's playing with Jonas at the same time, they don't have to totally clog the paint. I mean, Jonas can get an elbow touch, and Jaren can go to work in the paint. Where I think Jaren needs to improve, I think, as good as he has been defensively, I think he has to do a better job of defending with his feet and not his hands, because what does Jaren need to do? He needs to get into a rhythm. You can't get into the rhythm if you're in foul trouble, and that's been an issue really throughout his career. So if Jaren can stay out of foul trouble, and I think, like Michael says, establish himself in the paint before he goes out to the three-point line, I think that's going to be really important. He, like Dillon, will have to be disciplined defensively. This is a San Antonio team that, like Golden State, will move you around, a lot of screens, a lot of back cuts. So he's going to have to be disciplined defensively, A, to be effective defensively, and B, not to commit fouls that will take him out of the game.
Well, the Grizzlies will take on the San Antonio Spurs. It'll be Wednesday night at 6:30 at FedEx Forum, as the Grizzlies will have the home court advantage in this play-in tournament. The winner of that game then will take on the loser of the Lakers and Golden State. That'll determine the 8th seed in the Western Conference. So we know the opponent now. It is San Antonio. The teams have played 3 times so far this season, with the home team losing all 3 games. Grizzlies winning 2 at San Antonio. The Spurs won their lone matchup at FedEx Forum, which was the home opener of the entire season. Pete, when you look at the matchup with the teams, where's it good for the Grizzlies? Where's this matchup in their favor?
I think it's potentially good for the Grizzlies because although San Antonio is a fairly accurate three-point shooting team, they don't do it with volume. That's the situation that you have with Golden State, because they do it with accuracy and volume. San Antonio loves the two-point jump shot. It is maybe the least efficient shot in the NBA, but that's where Greg Popovich and his team tends to go, particularly with a guy like DeMar DeRozan. You have to be concerned about San Antonio's bench. Patty Mills is very, very good. He has broken Memphis hearts before. Rudy Gay is very good off the bench. And Brevin made a good point yesterday during one of our conversations about how Jakob Poeltl has hurt the Grizzlies because he's very, very good on the glass, and the Grizzlies were hurt by giving up offensive rebounds yesterday against Golden State. So they do present a lot of threats, but again, I think it's a good matchup for the Grizzlies in that They are predominantly a 2-point jump shooting team. They're not going to bury you with a lot of threes. So I think it's a good matchup for the Grizzlies. Now, here's the other thing. And yes, I realize in the 3 games, the road team won every game. San Antonio went 19-17 on the road, only 14-22 at home. And yet their offensive numbers are virtually the same at home or on the road. So it tells me that when they go traveling, they make sure that the defense is in the overhead bin when they get on the charter flight.
Jessica, to me, I look at San Antonio and I think my biggest fear of the Spurs is their head coach.
Yes, that would be my biggest fear as well. I will say, though, Greg Popovich, seasoned vet. The Grizzlies, the only seasoned vet of the play-in tournament.
That's true. That's right.
Hey, didn't go great for him, but they know what it's like at this point. No, but giving Greg Popovich 3 days to prepare, a little scary, especially when you think about the playoff experience in, the bulk of those rotation players with DeJounte Murray, with DeMar DeRozan, Pirtle, Patty Mills. All those guys have been in positions like this before, games like this before, and so they know how it goes. That said, you look back at the Grizzlies, those 2 games that they did win coming off of the COVID pause, 2 of their best games of the season, honestly. Shot 56% in both the matchups, a decent amount of threes. I think they had 17 in one and 15 in the other, matching that with paint points. And then the big thing was bench production. And as Taylor Jenkins has tightened up the rotation, it's not going to be the 60-plus bench points that we saw in those 2 games, but you have to get more from the bench than you had in the game against the Warriors on Sunday.
Michael, I sports hate. I hate to use the word hate, but sports hate Patty Mills. And that goes to what Jessica's talking about with the bench.
Man, I tell you what, Jessica took all of my fire. She just methodically took every single point I was about to make, and I was going to have a home run with the bench thing. But you're right. The benefit, though, is that you just saw Steph Curry, right? You know how he moves. You know how they try to set him up. Patty Mills is sort of like that, too, in terms of running off screens, getting to different spots to line up at the three-point line when he gets hot. So identifying Patty Mills is going to be key for them in that situation. The thing about the Spurs to me, though, is that this isn't a team that just stormed its way into the play-in. They were disjointed for the last 2.5 weeks. They've lost 8 out of their last 10. They ended the season on a losing streak. They had guys resting and guys out and this and that. Pop didn't even coach the last game because he went to Tim Duncan's Hall of Fame ceremony, which is to be respected and commended. But this doesn't strike me as a team that's enthused about being in this position. So if you're the Grizzlies, you're at home, I think you need to take the first punch to them in the first quarter, get off to a great start, and have that bench unit be one that goes back to what Jessica was saying. Taylor Jenkins has to trust that unit to use all of them again. He kind of pulled the plug on some of those guys because they weren't as effective against Golden State. That bench has to show up and give them at least 30, 35, 40 points in this game against San Antonio.
Well, Pete, hopefully we will be back when the Grizzlies take on Utah or Phoenix in the first round of the playoffs, and we'll be back on television with you. Looking forward to that. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon talking about this plan. Appreciate it, man.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you Wednesday.
That's right. And Jessica, we will hear you pre- and post-game show for the Grizzlies each game, including Wednesday night against the Spurs on the Grizzlies Radio Network, and then, of course, every morning on Rise and Grind with Megan Triplett.
A nice dose of morning vibes.
Morning vibes.
Sorry,
double shot. Yes.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
And
That's
Michael, surrounding the game, we will see you doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Here,
Just check out GrindCityMedia.com, in Grind City Media on Twitter, and we'll see you doing a whole bunch of stuff. Thanks,
just like you. I'm just trying to be like you, man.
That's right. You'll see me doing a bunch of stuff, too. All right, that's going to do it for us. The Grizzlies and the Spurs. Wednesday night, 6:30 at FedEx Forum in the play-in. Grizzlies win. They will then head to Los Angeles or San Francisco to knock off the Lakers or the Warriors to get into the field of 8 in the Western Conference. Thank you for joining us today. For Brevin and Pete and Jessica and Michael and John Roser and Kimball, I'm Fish. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the action and go Grizz.